can you guide me through the process?
Yes. Okay. Comfortable. Thanks, Sushama. So actually, we had a discussion on this topic a few days back, and many questions were pending. And as time was running out,
Mm.
I was forced to stop the discussion in the middle, and I promised the students that we will arrange another discussion session. So I think it will be better if you write down your questions in the chat box. That will be better because, or I would
I would
probably,
say even it's better if you can ask your question. Don't think about the language. You can just ask either in English or in Bengali. The reason behind this is that it's very important for me to understand where from you are coming to this question. So, what is your assumption behind what you are asking for? That will help me to actually solve the problem rather than just answering the question.
okay. So first question comes from Aurobindo. So, so Aurobindo, you can unmute your mic and ask the question. Okay. I was speaking to him a few moments back. Aurobindo, you can ask the question directly to Dipjyoti sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Arvindo.
Sir, can I talk in Bengali? This is so comfortable for me to explain
Yes,
this.
yes, of course, of course.
হ্যাঁ স্যার
Bolo.
আমার হ্যাঁ স্যার আমার মানে বক্তব্যটা হচ্ছে যে আমি মানে অন্টারপ্রেনিয়রশিপের দিকে আর কি যেতে চাই। মানে দেখুন, মানে সবাই তো ফিজিক্স এর পরে মানে হায়ার স্টাডি বা কেউ গভর্নমেন্ট জবের দিকে যায়, বাট আমার ইন্টারেস্টেড, আমি অন্টারপ্রেনিয়রশিপ দিকে আমি আর কি ইন্টারেস্টটা পেয়েছি। তো আমি সেই দিকটা করেই নিজেকে নিয়ে যেতে চাই। তো এই মুহূর্তে দাঁড়িয়ে অ্যাজ এ কলেজ স্টুডেন্ট আমি কিভাবে নিজেকে সেই লেভেলে তৈরি করতে পারি, মানে এখন থেকে আমি কি কি স্টার্ট করতে পারি। মানে ধরুন, মানে আমি যে ফিজিক্সটা পড়ছি সেটা তো আমাকে ইন্ডাস্ট্রিতে যদি আমি অ্যাপ্লাই করতে চাই, তাহলে আমাকে এই মুহূর্তে কি কি জিনিস শিখতে হবে, কি কি স্কিল অ্যাকোয়ার করতে হবে, যেটাতে আমি একটা টেক স্টার্ট আপ তৈরি করতে পারি।
Hmm. Uh, is it okay for you, Aravinda, if I answer you in English?
ইয়েস স্যার, ইয়েস স্যার।
Okay. So what Aravind is asking us is that he is a physics student, but what he would like to do is he would like to build his own startup and become an entrepreneur. And he wants to understand that while he is studying in his process of growing himself, what are the skills that he can acquire that helps him to become a good entrepreneur. So I will answer this question into three aspects. The first part is that I know plenty of physicists who are entrepreneurs. I have a very close friend who finished his postdoc in Stanford and was working at SLAC. SLAC is one of the national laboratories for accelerators in US, and he started his own startup. The reason he started his own startup is because in a accelerator you have a very minimum amount of experimental time. So you create streams of particle at a higher acceleration rate, and then when these particles collide with a material or a matter, you also measure what is happening. Now, although it sounds very easy, in reality the amount of noise around the signal you get is extremely high. So you need to have good filters to understand what is exactly the real signal and what is exactly the signal that you don't want to have, which is probably noise from interference in the system. And he realized that it's a big problem. People spend a lot of time doing this, and it's a wastage of time. You do not, by reducing the noise, you do not get any extra benefit. So he started to work on a software which can reduce this noise and make the signal more understandable. Later, he developed this initially a code into a software and then to a startup. So his startup is offering software to big accelerators around the globe for measurement and noise reduction. And this system is even based on some AI algorithms which can help to make sure that what kind of optimization parameters you need to play with based on the kind of particle you are dealing with and the kind of experiment you are doing. So let's say if it's a superconducting material and you are testing it with a muon source, then you need a very different setup and very different parameters than if it's a completely different kind of energy level of the rays that you are using for measurement. Why I'm saying this to you, Arvind, and all, to become an entrepreneur, the first thing you need to be good at is understanding problem, which while you study physics, you can also do. So the first skill you need to acquire is the skill to understand a problem better. And it does not mean that you only have to understand problems in physics. You can understand problem in your daily life. So the first thing, can you identify problems at a core of it? And can you understand, is it your problem only or a lot of people are facing this problem? So if I talk about my friend, he was able to understand that the noise reduction is a challenge, or the noise is a problem in a accelerator, and he was also able to understand that this is not a problem he is only having, it's a problem all national labs and accelerators around the globe face. So CERN in Switzerland and in Europe is also using his software, and this is the second aspect. So understanding a problem, knowing the scale of the problem, is it a problem a lot of people are facing? And then the last part, which is being able to create a solution for that. So you can say, well, gravity is a problem, but you cannot create an anti-gravity gun. So if that's not feasible, it doesn't matter how big the problem is or can you identify the problem. If the solution doesn't exist or you cannot build the solution, then it's of no use. So what are the two main skills I spoke about? One is identifying the problem, scaling the problem, and the other part of the skill is offering the solution of the problem. In context of building solutions, this is where you can build certain part of skill set while studying physics. One of them is being very good in programming. So play around with things which are very simple. For example, use Python as a language for coding to do something which is generally done in an automated way. You can even think about using open source software. So I will just put a link to some of the open source AI Python platforms where you can build something to test yourself. But I cannot do it today. I need some time for that. And this is one of the best ways that you can prepare yourself to create solutions for others. So programming, especially in Python, and try to convert a problem that you have, it can be a very simple problem, into a Python solvable problem. So think in context of algorithms. Let's say if you are already dealing with a scenario where let's say your family have 5 members and they are having different kind of medicines. Someone is having medicine which is related to blood pressure, someone is having medicine related to blood sugar, and someone is having medicine because maybe they are having some problem with their food habit, so they needed to have some vitamins. Can you build a code which helps to optimize when someone should take what medicine? And that will help you. It's not a big problem, but it helps you to understand the logic of how to build a programming that helps you to offer a solution. Now you will say, what's the connection between this with physics? The connection is that when you think about what I was saying in SLAC, in a national accelerator where particles are being accelerated, and the particle is hitting another material and a lot of other materials are released, there are sensors which need to be activated at right time. So you cannot have all the sensors sensing at the same time. You need to have relays which will help to measure at different time, and this is what can help you a lot to understand how to deal with these challenges. Does it answer your question, Arvind? But one thing to add is that this is not a discussion we can finish in one single go. You need few iterations or few discussions. And if some of you are also interested in entrepreneurship, let us know. I can do a special series on this. This may not be directly connected to PhD.
Right. Thank you, Dipjyoti. Aurobindo, does this answer apparently
Yes, ma'am.
offer you certain guidance? Okay, that's good. Yes, and I also agree with Dipjyoti. If some people of you, especially Sushamoy, also asked for the video on entrepreneurship. So if you people are really interested, please let me know. We can plan a series on that. Okay. Okay. So anybody else would like to ask question to
ম্যাম
Dipjyoti?
আমার কোশ্চেন্স আছে।
বলো সুসময় বলো।
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ বলছি স্যার, আমি এমএসসির পরে মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স নিয়ে পড়ার প্ল্যান করছি। আহ,
Mhm.
মানে কিরকম ভাবে প্রিপেয়ার করবো নিজেকে মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স, এবং মানে কোন জায়গাটা সব থেকে বেশি ভালো এখানে আহ পড়ানো হয়, বা এই জাতীয় কিছু মানে মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স সম্পর্কে জানতে চাইছি পুরোটাই। বা আমি
So what? বলো সুসময় বলো।
হ্যাঁ, আর স্যার বলছি আমি এমএসসির পর যদি মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স নিয়ে পড়লাম, আহ, সেখান থেকে তো আমি মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স নিয়ে পিএইচডি করতে পারবো, বা আমি এখন এমএসসির পর ডাইরেক্ট পিএইচডি করতে পারবো, কোনটা মানে কেরিয়ারের পক্ষে বেশি ভালো হবে সেটা আমি জানতে চাইছি।
So Sushamoy is asking about that he is interested about medical physics, and he have already completed his masters. So where he can go for the next step, which are
না স্যার,
the
মাস্টার ডিগ্রি
possible
চলছে।
master
মাস্টার
degree
ডিগ্রি,
চলছে তোমার? Okay. So
হ্যাঁ।
Sushamoy is still in his masters and he is uh, trying to plan what can be the next step. Sushamoy, the first question I will have for you is, why do you want to study medical physics? What was the logic behind concluding that this is what you would love to do? তা তুমি মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স নিয়েই কেন পড়তে চাও?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, মেডিকেল ফিজিক্স নিয়ে যেটা দেখেছি, মানে প্রথমত তো আহ, মানে আমার মানে রেডিয়েশন নিয়ে একটা মানে ইচ্ছে আছে পড়ার। মানে নিউক্লিয়ার ফিজিক্স নিয়ে আমার এগোনোর ইচ্ছে ছিল, কিন্তু মানে এখনো আছে। সেটা দেখলাম মেডিকেল ফিজিক্সে আমি যদি পড়ি, সেটা আমি রেডিয়েশন ফিজিক্স অনেকটা জানতে পারবো, এবং সেখানে রেডিয়েশন ফিজিক্সের অনেকটা অ্যাপ্লিকেশনসও আছে। সেই জন্যই স্যার আমি মেডিকেল ফিজিক্সে একটু মানে ন্যাক আছে আমার।
ওকে, দেখো এইখানে let me divide this into two parts. First is, you can definitely study medical physics in long term, and there are areas where there are overlapping phases between medical physics, chemistry, and biology. So there are a lot of areas where there are even overlaps of medicine in a way. But the question is that you have to be very clear in context that why you want to study this. Is it just because you love the topic of radiation or radiology? You can buy a book and study from there. But if you want to do experimental research in this field, there are only few institutes in India who can deliver these expertise. So TIFR might be one of them. One of the hot topics in the area of medical research is proton therapy in context of cancer research, and there are some institute around the globe who are really good in this and pioneering very precise proton therapy for cancer. Helmholtz is one of them. So there is a Helmholtz Center in Dresden, as well as in Heidelberg, where they are well known around the globe. Even people from US come for research in these labs for proton therapy. So proton therapy is one of these areas where the next 10 years will be a lot of opportunities. Then the next area where things might be a bit interesting is related to, if you study medical physics, if you study, if you are interested in medical physics, if you are also interested in radiology, is to go into a overlapping space between medical science, radiology, and artificial intelligence. In next 3-4 years, there are already few startups who can do this. In next 3-4 years, number of radiologists will decrease a lot, because with a software you can already identify from a x-ray what are the changes that have happened in context of what should have been একজন সুস্থ মানুষের এক্সরে কিরম হবে, and what are the changes, or if a bone is broken or not. So this can be another field where it's an overlap of radiology, which is doing X-ray, or even MRT, magnetic resonance tomography, and uh, artificial intelligence. So you cannot eliminate the aspect that artificial intelligence will play a very crucial role in the area of radiology, and human intervention will be less required. So if you want to study in this field, it definitely makes sense to understand a bit about artificial intelligence, how it is used at present in radiology. And also, if you want to go into medical physics which have radiology in it, this is almost indispensable, that having knowledge of AI will help you a lot in long term. Now, specifically coming to the institutes, if you want to study radiology in or medical physics in India, um, there are good scopes in certain areas, but not in every single place. So one of the area is TIFR, and studying something in context of radiology, or in context of medical physics, where it's about treatment of cancer. But um, it seems like Shushama left. Is it he's disconnected probably?
না স্যার আছি।
Acha. And the last thing is that if you want to really do research in this field, it's better to apply somewhere outside. Especially, you can apply in the Helmholtz institutes in Germany. They are very well known in this field. You can apply to two of the very famous institutes in US. One of them is so actually Stanford does a lot of research, but Stanford have a very high threshold of accepting students in this field. But nevertheless, I would again come back to the question that why would you like to do that? Or what convinces you that studying medical physics is what you would like to go forward? I'm not saying don't do that. Definitely go for it. But you have to spend in a week at least 5 to 10 minutes reading about what are the latest research in this field, and see do you like it or not. If it does not give you any excitement after reading for 2 months, then maybe it's not a field where you should be. And the last part I will add to this is medical physics also now have an extension which is in context of point of care medical facilities. So sensing application for fast cancer screening, or sensors being used for making something so small that you can identify if mm, sorry mm, if something is like the COVID test, which was developed within a very short time. There is a lot of physics involved behind it. So what I would say is, don't only think about radiology or medical physics. You can also think about going into the area of physics, semiconductors, and the semiconductors can be connected to the aspect of sensing, where there is a lot of application in medical physics. তো সুসময়, তুমি কি তোমার প্রশ্নের উত্তর পেলে, বা অন্য আরো কিছু জানতে চাও এই ব্যাপারে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, মোটামুটি পেয়েছি উত্তর।
Okay, let me send one thing which might help you. um,
Dipjyoti, while listening to this, I just remembered that we had an interview with Professor Orghodev, Jadavpur University, about this. JU has a course, Diploma in Medical Physics, and while discussing this, you mentioned MTech or BTech on bioinstrumentation or something like that. So, is it in any way relevant to Sushama's question?
I think if Sushomoy is looking for doing research which will help, so doing physics research which will help in building um, medical expertise or helping people to live longer, instrumentation is a bit
Hmm.
more towards engineering. So the
Technical.
physics part will be very less. It's not nothing that Sushomoy should not do, but if Sushomoy is looking for more hardcore physics that will help to build um medical devices or help people who needs medical care and so on, then probably instrumentation is not the way to
Hmm.
go forward.
That's it.
So
Okay.
Sushomoy, I have I have added few papers here. Even you can have a look and see if these are things that excites you. So few individuals left. Let me know if English is problem for you. I can switch on and off also with language. It's not a problem for me. If you are facing any challenges in context of language, don't be shy. And there is nothing wrong about speaking Bengali, so don't worry about that.
Hmm.
Okay. So what's our next question?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Actually, sir, I am doing a BSc first year in physics, and actually, sir, I want to pursue physics from from foreign lands because of the exposure
Mm,
and we get to know much more thing because of the advancements there.
mm.
Because I think so. So, sir, uh, what you recommend that whether I should go for MSc or PhD in foreign countries? And sir, I also would like to know about the internship and scholarships available, because sir,
Okay.
I have to also think about the expenses that would be means included in it.
Okay. So I will. There is another question. So let me see if it's of same. Uh,
No, it's not at all.
okay. Okay. Um. So first of all, your name is Ravindra, right?
Yes,
Oh,
sir, Ravinder Kaur.
okay. Ravindra. One important part is that uh, going to a different country to study for masters or PhD is definitely a good idea because of the infrastructure, especially if you do experimental work. There is no question. It doesn't matter who is saying you. I have never seen someone saying our countries have better infrastructure than, let's say, Germany or Spain or US. And that's why going for experimental work where infrastructure becomes very crucial is of you definitely will get the dividend out of that.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you break it down into PhD, which is higher study after post graduation, or masters, the cost structure looks like this: that if you go for masters, number of scholarships are less and there is a cost involved. Whereas more you go towards PhD, it's a paid position. PhD is not some place where you need to pay, except some countries. So PhD is a better phase to go to study abroad than masters, because of if cost is a challenge for someone. So what
Yes,
do I
sir.
mean by if cost is a challenge? If someone is, I used to teach, so I used to teach students of 11th or 12th when I was in India almost 15 years ago, who are pretty rich. For them, even going for bachelors abroad was not a big challenge. And in today's situation, you can even study in Oxford if you have enough money. So education and money have a direct correlation, but more you go towards higher studies, then you lose this, that you don't need to have money to study physics in for PhD in University of Heidelberg or University of Toronto. So what I would suggest is, if financial constraint is a issue, it's better to
Yes,
go
sir, it
abroad for
is.
PhD. So
Okay,
PhD
for
is a
PhD.
better phase to go abroad. But let's say you are still dedicated that you would love to go for masters. One way to do this is applying for scholarships. And as you are in your BSc, you can start to look for what are the scholarships, when to apply and prepare for them. You at least need 1.5 year to prepare for applying for all these scholarships. Or you can also take a bank loan and go abroad to study. This is something a lot of students would do, but this is something we cannot conclude as a discussion within 10-15 minutes. If education loan is a topic, that's a very different thing. So suggestion is, if you want to use not a single penny from your pocket to study abroad, go for PhD. If you are willing to take a bit of risk and study with some amount of money, go for masters. And you can also get a scholarship, and you may not need to actually get any education loan. And the best way to prepare is, when you are in your bachelor, start to look for positions and scholarships that are for masters as well as for PhD in other countries. And there are a lot of places you can look for. If you spend 15 days looking into this topic, you will suddenly become an expert in this. So the best situation for financial reason is PhD. The next best is masters plus PhD. And for masters, you can definitely also apply for scholarships.
Answer. Answer. I have one more question. Answer as
Yeah.
a means sir, as I have said that I am a first year student in BSc. So sir,
Mm.
so, sir, as we know that for doing a PhD or masters in the foreign countries, mainly I am now inclined towards the PhD. So, sir, we need to have some knowledge like internships or some works like research or some assistance in research, something like that.
Yeah.
So, sir, as a student of BSc first year or second year, means I am going into second year now.
Mm.
So, sir, what can I do means to help me at that time so that I would be more accepted in the college because the acceptance rate are also low means because I am from another country and going into that college.
Mm. So first of all, very good that you are thinking about this from now. People generally start very late to try for these kind of topics. So where you can start is, you can start a project in next 15 minutes, where you have a lot of control on that. What kind of project? You can take any problem and convert it into a Python solvable problem. This is something as a project you can do, and you don't need to rely on someone. What does it do to your CV? It helps you to really project that you are a self driven person. It's not that you need to rely on someone to do something. So when it comes to programming, computer programming related languages, and executing something at a basic level, you can start on your own. Now, The second thing is, if you want to do experimental projects or even theoretical physics project, you can approach institutes like TIFR, IISc, IITs, Jadavpur University, and just keep on writing the professors a nice email with your CV asking for the permission to work with them for a internship. You will get 100 rejections, but if you apply for 200, I'm sure you will get 5 accepted. So the main aspect here is numbers. So can you apply for 200? Can you apply for 300 applications? And don't worry about getting rejected. Just keep on applying. You will definitely get projects to work for. And when you land up doing a project with someone, you have to deliver excellence. So the best way to start this is, a, start something in next 15 minutes, not in next 15 days. uh, and look for something which is already available online as a programming project. This is something you can do and you don't need to rely on anyone. The next phase is, let's say you want to do an experimental project, you need at least something in a lab. For this, what you can do is you can start to apply for certain open positions for project in India, not in India, I mean few institutes in India, and also directly approach professors. So write them a nice email saying who are you, what you do, what is your wish to do with the professor, and why you can do it. If you do it for 10 times, you may get 10 rejection, but if you do it for 50 times, two-person will at least speak to you. This is more important in context of getting such an internship, rather than just thinking about how can I get a nice internship, so let me have a very nice CV. Your CV will help, but at the end
Yes,
you
sir.
have to apply to a lot of places.
So, sir, I should apply multiple times to the same professor. Means I can do this.
Not to the same professor. It's not that you have to write to the same person 200 times, then they will
No,
probably
no,
not
no.
like to
Yes,
see
sir.
you ever.
Yes, sir. That
But
I can understand.
you have to, let's say you want to do a project in IIT Delhi. So you go to the physics department of IIT Delhi, you take a name, and you try to understand what this person is working on. So let's say they work in radiation physics, and you write them a very nice email saying that you want to work with them in semiconductor physics, which have no connection. That might be bad, but if you do a very short research about that person, say that, sir, I have seen that you are working on these topics, I'm interested in doing an internship, can you tell me about the possibilities? And that specific kind of approach you do for a lot of people, so not to him only but his colleagues. If you go to IISc, you will also find a lot of names. Approach them with an email. This is what I meant.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And sir, and sir,
Yeah,
you told about some programming project. So, sir, can you please
yeah.
means a little bit? Can you explain that part? That
Yes,
how can start
so
a programming project? Yes.
you can start a programming project in next 15 minutes just by taking any physics problem. So let's say there's a problem where there's a classic problem which generally you will solve in your 11th or 12th standard regarding particle physics of a particle
Okay, sir.
accelerating through a electromagnetic field. Can you
Yes, sir.
convert this problem into a Python solvable programming, whereby just me giving a few input that what's the value of magnetic field, what's the value of electric
Yes, sir.
field, what's the kind of particle that I have injected in the system, I can get the acceleration out as an output. So that is what I'm talking about. To start this, you don't need anyone's help. You can just Google and start this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, sir. So, sir,
Yeah.
this type of project will also be added in my CV.
No, it as a start, this you cannot add this in your CV, but as a
Yes,
start, it
sir.
will build your confidence to go to the next problems and explore what others are doing in this space. So it's a starter, it's not the main course.
Yes,
If
yes,
you
yes,
think
sir.
about
Of course, yes.
this, so once you start to do this, you will come across other problems and you have to try to solve them as well. And those problems are something you can add in your CV.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, and don't hesitate to approach us if there is any challenge which if there is anything where we can help you with.
স্যার
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yes, yes,
হ্যাঁ
Mayuk.
হ্যাঁ স্যার বলছি বলছি স্যার এই লকডাউন পরিস্থিতিতে লং স্টাডিতে যাবার কথা ভাবাটা কতটা সমীচীন?
দেখো, what Mayuk is asking us is if there is any rationality behind thinking about long study when we have lockdown and the financial conditions are not very good. So আমি এই প্রশ্নের উত্তরটা বাংলা এবং ইংলিশ দুটোতেই দেব। তার কারণ হচ্ছে যে প্রশ্নের উত্তরটা খুব সোজা। আম, তোমাকে এখানে কোথাও একটা ভাবতে হবে যে তোমার প্রায়োরিটিটা কি। ইফ ইউ তোমাকে যদি বাড়ির 5টা মেম্বার রয়েছে তাদের জন্য ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ টু আর্ন ব্রেড ফর দেম, তোমার চাকরির পয়সায় তারা খেতে পাবে এরকম যদি
না না
পজিশন।
না না সেরাম সেরাম ব্যাপার নয়, সেরাম ব্যাপার নয়।
আমি আমি প্রশ্নের উত্তরটা বললে তুমি বুঝতে পারবে, মানে তারপর ইউ হ্যাভ তোমাকে তোমার মতো করে ভেবে নিতে হবে যে তুমি কি করতে পারো। কারণ তোমাকে এবং তোমার পরিস্থিতিকে তোমার থেকে ভালো কেউ জাজ করতে পারবে না। তো ব্যাপারটা এরকম যে আমি আমার বাবার কথা বলি। আমার বাবার কাছে পিএইচডি করার অপশন ছিল, কিন্তু আমার বাবা করতে পারেননি, কারণ হচ্ছে বাড়িতে কিছু কনস্ট্রেন্ট ছিল। উনি চাকরিতে চলে গেছেন যখন চাকরি পেয়েছেন। কিন্তু আমার কাছে পরিস্থিতিটা এতটা খারাপ ছিল না। সো দ্যাটস ওয়াই আই ওয়াজ এবল টু পারসিউ মাই পিএইচডি। তোমাদেরকেও এভাবে ভাবতে হবে যে ইফ আই হ্যাভ সাম ইমিডিয়েট শর্ট টার্ম গোলস, then let me put my higher study goal aside for some time. Let me achieve something in context of financial gain, and then I can again go back to studies. So the main thing is that in there is no rationality behind thinking or connecting lockdown with long studies. The only rationality is আমার financial condition কি, do I have a stable enough financial condition, because to do long term study I at least have to survive 3 to 4 years from now without immediate income. If that's not the case, then let me focus on the aspect of income and I can come back to higher studies again, as higher studies do not have any age bar. So it's not that if you are not 18 or 17 you cannot study anymore in context of doing a PhD or a postdoc even. So it's a very tough question to answer, Mayuk, because somehow tumi chhara no one knows your situation and yourself better than you. You have to take a call and you have to stand for it. It will be hard, doesn't matter what the condition is. Lockdown na hole onno kichu hoto, recession hote parto. So you have to say, do I really want to do long studies and can I afford it, or I have to help my family in next few years, so let me do that and then I will come back to higher studies again. Studying long term or trying to do something in long term always helps to reflect on what are my priorities, and there is no rationality between connecting lockdown, should I study further, there is no lockdown, should I study further. This is not a question at all. The question is, do I have financial stability to do it or I don't.
না স্যার আমি ব্যাপারটা এরকম বলতে চাইনি, মানে ধরুন কেউ কেউ লকডাউন পরিস্থিতিতে কোনো একটা ভালো জায়গায় রিসার্চের সুযোগ পেলো, তাহলে সে তো
আচ্ছা,
ল্যাব পাচ্ছে না, ল্যাব পাচ্ছে না, এমনি সময় যে যে সমস্ত সুযোগ সুবিধা সে পায় সেগুলো সে পাচ্ছে না, তাহলে তার দক্ষতা ওখানে কতটা বিকাশ হবে বা সে তার এই পিএইচডির পর কতটা জবের জন্য তৈরি থাকবে সেটা বলছি। এই আমরা এই ব্যাপারটা জিজ্ঞেস করতে চাইলাম।
এটার আচ্ছা, তোমার কোয়েশ্চেনটা আমি অন্য একটা ভাবে দেখেছি, কিন্তু দিস ইজ অলসো ভেরি সিমিলার, দ্যাট if you think about lockdown, এবং তুমি যদি ভাবো যে লকডাউনটা একটা প্রবলেম, this is a problem for everyone around the globe. So it means that এটা একটা ডিনোমিনেটর, কমন ডিনোমিনেটর ফর এভরিওয়ান। সো এটা এরম নয় যে ইংল্যান্ডে কেউ ল্যাবে যেতে পারছে আর জার্মানিতে পারছে না। মোস্ট চান্সেস আর যে পৃথিবীর কোথাওই কেউ ডাইরেক্টলি সারাক্ষণ ল্যাবে যেতে পারছে না। And it's a special situation, no one have seen this before. In that context, a এইটাকে বেস করে ইউ ক্যানট ডিসাইড শুড ইউ স্টাডি লং টার্ম অর নট। তাই এটাকেও খুব একটা প্রায়োরিটি দেওয়া যাবে না। তোমাকে এইভাবে ভাবতে হবে যে আমি ল্যাবে যদি না যেতে পারি, ইংল্যান্ডেও একজন যদি ল্যাবে না যেতে পারে, ইউএসএ তেও একজন যদি ল্যাবে না যেতে পারে, জার্মানিতেও যদি একজন ল্যাবে না যেতে পারে, সো উই আর নট লুজিং এনিথিং। দি সেকেন্ড আসপেক্ট ইজ যে তুমি যেটা বলছো যে জবের আসপেক্ট, পিএইচডি তে তুমি ল্যাবে গেছো কিনা that doesn't have a direct impact on what kind of job you will end up. তুমি পিএইচডির পরে চাকরি পাওয়ার মেন আসপেক্টটাই হচ্ছে এ, either you have to be very good in research, b, or you have to be very good in communicating and doing things which are related to leadership. And the third aspect is if this is related to a engineering position, to be very good in context of the content that you can deliver. কন্টেন্ট বলতে সেটা রিসার্চ কন্টেন্ট হতে পারে, সেটা এক্সপেরিমেন্ট করার যে আইডিয়েশন সেটা হতে পারে, এরকম অনেক কিছু হতে পারে। বাট নো ওয়ান উইল সে দ্যাট দেখি ময়ূক তুমি 15 ঘন্টা ল্যাবে ছিলে, কিন্তু ময়ূক 2.0 এসছে, সে 30 ঘন্টা ল্যাবে ছিল, চাকরিটা ময়ূক 2.0ই পাবে। এইটা this will never happen in any place, and if someone is giving a job based on that, you should not do that job. So ময়ূক তুমি কি কিছুটা এটা নিয়ে ক্ল্যারিটি পেলে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার,
আচ্ছা,
একটাই। আর
স্যার
আমি বলছি যে ধরুন যে এই এই- এই- এই সময় যারা ধরুন রিসার্চ ছেড়ে অন্য কোনো লাইনে যাবে, তারা কি কোথাও আমাদের চেয়ে এগিয়ে যাবে সেই ব্যাপারটায় মেন প্রশ্ন। করে অন্য কোনো লাইনে গেল ডিরেক্ট, তারা কি যারা রিসার্চের দিকে যাবে তারা চেয়ে এগিয়ে থাকবেন না? অন্য
দেখো
কিছু
এইখানে
সেটাই।
আমি এই প্রশ্নটা কে অন্যভাবে একটু বলবো, সেটা হচ্ছে যে none of you should at all think what happens if someone goes into another area. কেন? কারণ হচ্ছে যে এখন জেফ বেজো বলছে যে চাঁদে যাবে, তো ডেফিনেটলি ও আমাদের থেকে অনেক এগিয়ে রয়েছে। কারণ হচ্ছে যে আমরা পৃথিবীতেই এখন বসে রয়েছি, উই আর গোয়িং এভরিওয়্যার উইথ এ মাস্ক, ইফ নিডেড উই ক্যানট জাস্ট ওপেন দ্য মাস্ক অ্যান্ড স্টার্ট টু টক সামওয়ান। তাই আরেকজনের কি হচ্ছে সেটা দিয়ে আই ক্যানট ডিফাইন মাই future বা myself, what I want to do in next years. You have to only focus on two things. One is what I am good at, and two, how can I sell that. Sell that means to approach the right people and talk about what you are good at. এটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট, কারণ আরেকজন কোন দিকে যাচ্ছে সেইটা হতেই পারে সে নেক্সট 3 বছর খুব বেনিফিট পেলো। আমি তোমাদেরকে let me give you a personal example. So when I was doing my undergrad, a lot of my friends got into job immediately. So when they finished their undergrad studies, immediately they got a job in TCS, CTS, Wipro, and so on. And actually, they were having a better life than me. So they were already earning 20K a month. তাদের রাফলি মাইনে ছিল 20,000 টাকা। They were traveling quite a lot. But if I see that in context of 10 years ago, they were far ahead of me because they took a route of getting into job. But if I see now, a lot of them even apply to me to get a job so that they can come abroad. So 10 years down the line, things have changed. And that's what I mean, Moyuk, je if you try to decide something based on what others are doing, it will be very tough for you to carry forward. So I'm quite sure that you have certain skills and you are gifted in certain areas and you have to focus on those paths. You cannot compare yourself with someone else who may take a different route, be successful. That's completely fine. You have to find and define your own success. এবং আমাদের দেশে এটা একটা বড় প্রবলেম, কারণ হচ্ছে আমাদের দেশের বাবা মারা যেহেতু সবসময় খুব ছোটবেলার থেকেই কম্প্যারেটিভ ভাবে আমাদেরকে বড় করে, যে ওই দেখ বাবুল বাবুর ছেলে অমুক হয়ে গেছে। ইট ক্যান বি, বাট বাবুল বাবুর ছেলে ইজ স্টিল বাবুল বাবুর ছেলে, সে কিন্তু আমি নই। তাই আমি কি করতে চাই, দ্যাট ইজ অফ হায়ার রেলিভেন্স দেন আরেকজন কি করতে চায়।